The Bose QuietComfort Ultra 2 is the follow-up to the extremely popular QuietComfort Ultras, but 6 months later, after a somewhat controversial over-the-air update that removed some functionality and changed some other things with these, should you buy them? And what has really stood out with them? Well, let me answer that last question first. The first thing that stands out is the thing that's always stood out with Bose, the noise cancellation. It is still, without question, the best noise cancellation that I have heard on any pair of headphones that I've tested. And what's impressive about the Gen 2 specifically is their ability to really crank it up and dynamically respond to ambient noise. Like when I tested them against simulated airplane cabin noise, at first they were roughly on par with the new AirPods Max 2, but then I noticed that the Bose just slowly kept increasing their noise cancellation further and further and ended up just blocking out way more of that sound. Now, there is one quirk I do want to note though, and it's something I have not noticed on the new AirPods Max 2 that I'm currently reviewing. When I'm at my computer, I've got noise cancellation enabled and I have these on and I just start talking through my scripts out loud. There's a slight hissing sound that comes in when the noise of my voice appears. And it's a minor thing, but it is something I do notice with these and I find kind of annoying, and it's not something I notice on other headphones. Another highlight with these is the setup. The Bose app walks you through everything really quickly and efficiently. There weren't like 10 different things I had to swipe through before I could actually just start using my headphones, which I appreciate. Now let's talk about the hardware itself. That's another highlight, and I really like how these look as well as how they feel. They went with a polished metal on the Gen 2, which I think looks a bit more elegant. They also weigh 264.4 grams, which is excellent for over-the-ear headphones and right in line with the popular Sony WH-1000 XM6s. You can generally wear these for hours without discomfort, and thanks to their battery life, you can wear them for hours. They're rated for 30 hours, and while I haven't pushed them quite that far in a single setting, my overall impression over the past 6 months is that I just find myself charging these way less often than some of the other headphones I own, especially the AirPods Max line. They're only rated for about 20 hours. And here's another design part of their functionality that I think often gets overlooked with headphones. These have the ability to fold in, which makes the case significantly more compact than a lot of the competition, which is a real win if you travel with headphones regularly. Another design detail I want to call out is the ear cups. They're noticeably deeper than what you get with Sony's headphones. And for my ears at least, that makes a real difference. Sony's cup shape just feels like it rests on part of my ear, and after 30 or 45 minutes, it just feels uncomfortable to me. With these and my ear shape, I don't have that issue. Now, one of the more welcome changes that came in a recent software update is getting rid of all of those voice prompts that used to litter the Bose headphone experience. And as someone who reviews a lot of headphones and earbuds, good riddance. They were everywhere, and I found them to be kind of exhausting, honestly. Now, there are still voice prompts when transitioning between aware and quiet mode.
Quiet. Aware.
I feel like Bose could also just make a chime or just add a setting so you can either switch on chimes or switch on voice prompts. The new sounds, I think, are better as well. On startup, there's a shorter sound, which allows you to just get to your music a bit faster. Next up, transparency mode, or what Bose calls aware mode, is above average on these headphones. Now, you can hear your voice and surroundings clearly, and it does its job well. It's just not the best I've ever heard. I can definitely still tell I have headphones on. Just sounds like I've got something kind of muffling my ears a little bit. I don't get that on other headphones like with the AirPods Max. Mic quality as well, I'd say, is above average. It's fine for calls and meetings, just not best in class. And here's an example of how it sounds.
All right, and this is the Bose Ultra QuietComfort Gen 2. This is how their mics sound. And right now I'm just in my studio environment. It's pretty quiet, so this is about the best they'll ever possibly sound. And right now I'm recording them on my Mac via QuickTime.
Let me know what you thought in the comments, and now let's talk about some things that I haven't really found myself using with these headphones. First is USB-C lossless audio. It's a feature I'm glad is here, but most of the time I find myself just using these with a wireless connection. Now, can I hear a difference between lossless and just using these wirelessly? With these headphones, no, I've not been able to tell a difference. Now, when these launched, their lossless audio was just 16-bit, but the February software update, the slightly controversial one, it did add support for 2448 on these, which kind of brings it up to par with what other headphones can do. The other feature I haven't really used with these is the immersion mode, which just kind of spatializes the audio being piped into the headphones. Unless a spatial audio feature is paired specifically with Dolby Atmos, as Apple does with AirPods, which I think is actually a pretty decent implementation of this type of technology, depending on the Atmos mix, of course. Outside of that, with Bose's implementation, I've just found it to be a bit of a gimmick. Moving on, now let's get into downsides, and the biggest one for me with these headphones is sound quality, especially the default tuning out of the box. These headphones lean way too much on the bass right out of the box. Now, yeah, some of this is obviously going to be personal preference. There are people out there who really like that sound signature of an overemphasized bass, especially for certain genres of music. For me, here the bass just bleeds way too much into the mids for my taste, and it ends up masking a lot of the finer details in the music that you kind of want to hear. Now, the good news is there is an EQ. The bad news is it looks like this. I really wish these had an advanced tuning option like what you get with the Nothing X app and the Nothing Headphone 1 I reviewed. Even after multiple different EQ adjustments, I just haven't fallen in love with the sound on these like I have with other headphones. Something in their mid-range just for me has never quite clicked. And I notice this most with orchestral music, like listening to the fourth movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, for example. Specifically in the strings part towards the beginning of that movement, it just feels like the soul of that string sound is just kind of lacking when you listen to it on here. And then you put something else on, like the AirPods Max, for example, and I'll be like, oh, there it is. That is exactly what was missing. Another thing I think these suffer from is almost too much separation, like with the track Willing and Able from Noah Kahan's new Great Divide album, or American Cars also from that album. With instrumentations like guitar strums, they sound really nice and clear, but at the same time, I feel like those particular sounds, you hear it sounds like it's coming from the back of your ear a little bit in a way that it almost feels like that sound is disconnected from the rest of the mix. I feel like that this pretty extreme separation is going to sound really interesting and good when you demo these at a store like Best Buy, but when you're listening with these headphones for long listening sessions, I find that effect to just be a little fatiguing, to be honest. Controls are another downside for me. Getting these into Bluetooth pairing mode is way more complicated than it needs to be. In order to get them into pairing mode, you have to hold down the power button, which makes the sound when the headphones turn off, which instinctively then makes you want to release the button, thinking that you did something wrong. No, you didn't. It's just a bad design. You have to keep holding it down past that point, and then they'll enter the pairing mode. Why can't we just have a dedicated Bluetooth pairing button? Apparently, Nothing is the only company to have figured this out. And the volume control for these, it's fine. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. It doesn't give you as precise of volume steps as something like you get with the AirPods Max, Digital Crown, or Nothing's volume roller. Both of those implementations feel just a bit more precise than what Bose has done with these. Now, let's talk about that firmware update, which has ruffled a lot of feathers in the Bose community forums and subreddit. So what exactly was changed? There are fewer voice prompts that we talked about earlier, though a few remain. Bose also removed the option for a voice to read out the battery level when you first turn on your headphones, which I'm not sure why they got rid of it per se. That wasn't a feature I ever used, and I don't know why you wouldn't just use the battery indicator that will show up on your phone or computer, but I have not been able to get them to show up in my battery widget, or the new chime that'll now appear when these are running low on battery. I do think the bigger issue is, though, that Bose is removing a feature from a product that shipped with it at launch, which Yeah, that's definitely going to upset some people. Related to that, and the bigger change, the one that's caused the most uproar, is the removal of the ability to just cycle through previously connected devices manually. I think the issue is more, again, these shipped with that functionality and then it got stripped away via a software update, which isn't cool and does feel regressive, even though, yes, these do have multi-point Bluetooth, so you can connect them to two different devices at once and just play media from whichever one you want and it'll play on these. That's worked for me totally fine. Now, personally, I didn't rely on that manual cycling feature, so I don't miss it, but I totally understand why someone who would be used to that workflow would be frustrated that that feature did get removed. Another issue I've had is on occasion their EQ will just not update when I adjust it. And lastly, one other downside worth mentioning, and this is really specific to iPhone users. Because these aren't the AirPods Max, you're not going to get things like spatial audio with Dolby Atmos, or the automatic pairing that just seamlessly hands off between your iPhone, iPad, Mac, and other Apple devices. That ecosystem integration is something Apple does really well, and it does not allow any of their competitors to do with their devices. And that is something I would consider when looking at a pair of headphones. So, after 6 months, do I recommend the Bose QuietComfort Ultra Gen 2? Overall, yes, I do. I haven't run into any significant issues with these, and even accounting for the software update and the feature removals, which yes, that really does suck for the people who like those features, I do think overall this product is still pretty good. They have the best noise cancellation of any headphones that I've tested, great battery life, a solid build quality, decent mic quality, above average transparency mode, all in a compact, travel-friendly form factor with a slim case that fully protects these headphones. The more important question is whether you should get these over the competition from Sony, Apple, or other companies, especially at a retail price of $449 US, though you can often find them closer to $400. And you can see what they're currently going for in our blog post, along with links to other products mentioned in this video, link to that in the description and pinned comment. Now, are they worth getting at the full retail price compared to their competition? I'm not so sure. Now, I'm not going to walk you through how these completely stack up against every competing headphone that I've tested because, well, I've already done that video. You can click here to get to that. And if you want to see more of my reviews of other headphones like the Sony WH-1000 XM6s, you can click here to get to that video. And make sure you follow us at 6monthslater.net to stay up to date on all of the tech that we cover. For 6 months later, I'm Josh Tedder, and if you made it all the way to the end here, let me know by commenting that February update. Thanks for watching.